allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Led by Pastor Bruce Fraser.
Prayer is going to be led by Bruce Fraser, Pastor Bruce Fraser of Assembly of God. Thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'd just like to say a couple of sentences. When John addressed the New Testament church, he didn't address that as a corporation. Behind every government and its least common denominator is a person. And so when he prayed for the church, he said, I pray that above all you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So he didn't pray for a corporation. He prayed for the people in the church. He prayed that their physical needs would be taken care of, that their emotional needs would be taken care of, and that their spirit would prosper. So I'd like to pray for you guys, not for a court, not for our government, but for the people who make up that. So let me pray, if you would, and ask God to help you guys. Lord, we love you today. We thank you that you call us to many different vocations. You call us to many different efforts. I ask you today, Lord, that you would minister in these three areas to ladies and gentlemen that make up this court. Lord, may their bodies be blessed. Lord, may their health be improved. Father, may they prosper in the things they set their hands to do, not only in government, but in their personal life. And Lord, you connected our spiritual well-being to all areas of our life. I pray, Lord, that you would minister to them spiritually, touch their families, meet whatever personal needs they have, help them, Lord, to live a good life as they honor this community with their service. And we just pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Here.
Commissioner Casterline,
Here.
Commissioner Russo, here, Commissioner Dupnick,
Here.
Judge Garza.
Here. We've got a quorum. All right, now we got citizens to be heard. Mr. Scott Heim.
Welcome the new members, buckle up. We have two things to talk about. One has got to do with drainage in this county. I live on 3036. A lot of people depend on the ditches, those giant ditches for drainage for their subdivisions and homes. Back when we had the big floods, I went to that group that met. TxDOT does not have what's known as a gradall. Those ditches cannot be maintained without a gradall, period, end of story. You can't do anything about it. At the time, I went to TxDOT and said, we need this cleaned out. We got a mess. And he said, well, we don't have a gradall. We have to rent one. And we no longer this year have money in the budget to rent a gradall. And you see the risk that we're at if a rain happens, and we know the ditch is not maintained and they can't do it because they don't have one. I petitioned the drainage committee at that time to add their weight to go to TxDOT and say, we got to have a gradall for this district. Nothing's been done, at least nobody knows about it because I've asked. I'm asking you to lend your voices, go to Todd Hunter, go to whoever else and petition TxDOT to provide this district with a gradall so that we can properly maintain some of the most important ditches in the community. The other one is I want to make you aware, this is just a beginning awareness, but I found out that the CEO of the Port of Corpus Christi is a member. I didn't know about an organization called the Carbon Neutral Coalition. And they're in the business of sequestering, of gathering carbon and burying it deep in the soil of the state of Texas. Among other things, they are currently lobbying to get legislation passed that will sunset the environmental liability for their injection wells. They're buying up old used up aquifers and they've already started storing some things underground. Now I know you can't stop that. It's a legal organization. But once again, we have a new county judge over in Nueces. There are some other county judges, and I'm asking you to consider hardening us a little bit against that, because carbon neutral doesn't mean that they can't pump stuff into the air anymore. It means that every time they do, they have to pay someone money. Every time they use something that involves petroleum, they have to pay someone money in the form of carbon credits. This is a real thing. The people, if you go look up Carbon Neutral Coalition and look at their board of advisors, you will see some of the more powerful people in the state of Texas. They have access to high-level politicians, and they will accomplish this agenda. We probably can't stop it, but at least we can make some provision, A, to not have them storing stuff in our county, and B, to at least talk about this carbon neutral agenda. If we don't do something, it will happen. It will affect you with your bank account. It will affect you with the sprawl from the Port of Corpus Christi. And that's the last note on this. The Port of Corpus Christi has become very aggressive. They have plans, like, for instance, putting desal brine into the Aransas Channel. They're very aggressive. And in my opinion, it's a dangerous agenda. I'm not against the port, but we need to be on guard, and we need to be aware when we make these joint resolutions with other counties, what it is we're really cooperating with. They're driving some monumental actions, and we need to know about it before the fact, and instead of waiting down the line and saying, oh, how did we get to this place? I appreciate your attention.
Thanks, sir. All right, next up, we got a presentation by the 4-H group, youth group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Is this on?
Thanks so much.
I'm Ginger Easton Smith, and we are here to invite all of you to the A&H show, which is our county show coming up at the end of January. And we have several 4-Hers with us who are going to tell you about it.
Before they get started, I'm Megan Glidden. I'm the family community health agent for Aransas County as well.
Ginger, just for the record and staying with what we've been doing, I know what A and H is, but people reading the agenda.
Yes, it's the Agriculture and Homemakers Show. And it's, we do this in conjunction with San Patricio County.
I can do what y'all do.
Hello, I am Sienna Goad. I show poultry, specifically turkeys. I also enter in the homemaking show with photography. Hi, I'm Faith Patel. I've been a 4-H'er for 8 years. This year, I'm in the Queen's Contest, which is the beauty pageant portion of the contest for our livestock show. I also show turkeys and goats, and the contest for Queens will be also held on the 14th.
Hello, I'm Sierra Wright. I have been in 4-H 6 years and I raise rabbits. I have done rabbits for 5 years now.
My name is Connor Hale, and I have been in 4-H for 4 years now, and all I'm doing in the show this year is turkeys.
Thank you, kids. So we hope all you can make it, stop by for, you can just come by for any portion of the show, and we appreciate your support that you've given to us in 4-H.
Ginger, we normally furnish some dumpsters for the show. Have you coordinated that with Department of Health?
I haven't. We have a meeting tonight, so I will. They'll be very happy to know that that's going to happen again.
I mean, we've done it in the past, and a lot of time it gets forgotten about till
Yeah,
it turns into an emergency all of a sudden.
right. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we got a presentation by Miss Lori Caesar regarding animal control operations, and Aransas County animal control operations. Thanks.
Good morning, I'm Lori Caesar, Director for Aransas County Animal Control. I'm starting my 4th year out there as director. So this is kind of just an idea where I think that I would like our vision for our county to go as far as animal services. Anymore, we are not just a dog catcher. Okay, animal control is animal care. What has changed? Animal control goals have evolved over the years. They're utilizing more resources to reunification, sorry, I'm nervous, of animals and animal owners, educate on proper animal care. That's very important. A lot of times we can resolve it fairly easily with suggestions. The Outdoor Act comes into play, those things as well. Connect those in need with available resources such as the spay and neuter, the grant of Coastal Bend. I selected an area that is very challenged with vet care. Attempting to resolve nuisance animal situations in a more positive note. With that, it's just maybe getting the two parties to talk. This dog keeps coming over here. Okay, how about we talk with each other and get it going? I think COVID has separated us, not to talk to our next door neighbor. It has made us more isolated and not willing to talk to them about a problem that might be easily resolved. We're going to have a new community outreach goals, engage in partnerships that support the bonds between people and animals. We know that's very important. Even homeless people have their passion is that animal. That may be the only thing that keeps them going, Create meaningful change with the goals of reducing the intake of the lost and unwanted pets and encouraging housing most pets in homes instead of kennels. I'm going to need some help. When I look at the refurbishing that we have planned this year, I unfortunately have no housing available for them. And I can offset, but I can't move enough at this point without some help from our community, at least for a 2-week temporary thing is what I'm looking at. What's in a name? Control isn't what we do. We care. We care about the animals. We care about the people. And for most of us, we stayed after Harvey. We were here during Harvey. We care about our community. This is our community. It would be just as easy to leave than to stay. Accomplishing our goals is with volunteer programs. Volunteer programs provide the opportunity for citizens to really integrate with our shelter, to get it more public in a community place. I want it to be more active and inviting to people to come, not a negative that they come there and we destroy them. I don't like that connotation. I don't think it's a healthy thought. Volunteers that work with the county that can help us with lost pets. They provide transportation to spay and neuters. They can clean, they can socialize. Our animals, basically, if you look at it, get out. They are basically kind of solitary confinement, 23 hours and 45 minutes. They get out for 10 to 15 minutes a day. More interaction will make them. A lot of them are there because they aren't as social as they could be. I want them to be good citizens. Volunteers serve as ambassadors between the shelter and partner organization, helping pets and people, as well as contributing to the overall health and safety of the community. All this goes hand in hand. These working relationships help people become more invested in our community. And I think that's very important at this time to invest in our community. We have current partners and our volunteers are our MVPs. We have a long-standing relationship with Another Chance RFT that networks our dogs and cattails, which has done a phenomenal job of getting the cats out in preparation of kitten season, which should be starting next month. So they have been invaluable to this community and getting us going. And we hope to continue to build our relationship as we work together to improve. And we thank them for everything that they have done. Accomplishing our goals. This is where community relationship is important. We need to help pet owners who are pet food insecure by finding ways to connect them. We have lots of resources that I can share with them. They just need a central place to come and find out. I will locate it. I will know someone. Offer training classes for pet behavior support. A lot are given to us that they are unruly and they can't control them anymore. I have connections with Sit Means Sit. Also, Sandra Sue over there has brought in a trainer to help with their animals as well. So they're out there and available. We just need to recruit them to come help. Provide post support after they're adopted. Sometimes that transition period, it can be a little difficult. Wendy Lawbuck is a perfect example. She had to bring in a trainer for a couple months to get everybody integrated together. So, you know, that takes some time. And we found resources, offered resources best we could do, and work with those in finding lost pets, a finder to foster. Can you hold on to it till we might have a lost report and get that animal straight home and bypass us as well? Accomplishing our goals and objective, we need to create a foster on deck list. So I have people ready and committed. If I can supply kennels, whatever, so they can help us with housing. Support self-rehoming. Nowadays, there's so many electronic type networking things available. Pet Finder, you can upload your pet yourself. You can rehome them yourself. We will partner with Home to Home, which is also a rehoming network, to try to alleviate them owners surrendering to the shelter, because our main thing is stray animals that are, you know, public nuisance and running at large. And lost pet reunification, we do have a running data of all our lost and found, and our computer system, our software right now matches it. These are probables. This could be this dog. So it's just taking the time to look at it, and people posting on Marie's, and that helps us so much. Just a picture and where they found them, that's most important, because I can narrow it down and see if it may be that dog and get them home faster. Accomplishing our goals, helping pet owners start on the right foot. We're more involved in letting them know we have their spay and neuter things. We print that out. Here you go. Here's when your next ones are due. Keep everybody on that. Rabies, of course, being most important. And engaging our youth, promoting our health and safety of our community. We are really looking at the youth, because I believe that the youth is where our change in community comes from. Our 4-H programs, those are our leaders of tomorrow. And we need to involve them to make this change. It can't be like my age group, the 60 plus, but you know, we need those young kids, young minds, and they have ideas as well, what to do. I mean, Gabriel, we had one volunteer and he was outstanding in helping. He did clean, he did do other things, but he spent time with them as well. So they need that. And I think it made him feel good too. You know, it gave him that instant gratification that I'm doing something important for this animal. Building partnerships who will reach out to. They may include Human Family Services, organization supporting homelessness, youth organization, of course, the chamber. There's food pantries, adult protective services, domestic violence support. There's a lot of times people won't leave because they don't want to leave their animal. Other government agencies, I talk with a lot of other ACOs and directors quite often, nonprofits, and of course, community active programs. I do not believe Rockport is pet friendly on housing. I just have a case where he has to rehome because they won't allow a husky type there. I don't understand. Most of the time, people with animals are better. Actually, the data supports they are better renters and that type of thing. You know, we can try to talk to them, see what we can get. But I think this is all moving forward and trying not to intake animals that sit there for, right now, we're talking 28 days as the average stay. And I need them to move more quickly, and we need to get everybody involved. This is for number 17, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you. Do I just turn this off, Carl?
Thank you, Lori.
May I say something?
Yes.
I just want to congratulate Lori and her staff, because when I first came to the county back in 2012, our animal control situation was nothing to be proud of. It was a tremendous embarrassment. And she and her staff over the years have really, really improved the situation. And Unfortunately, I went out there recently to take a look at the improvements they'd made. And I now have a third rescue dog, but he's doing very well. So I encourage you all, go out, take a look at what's available. They're lovely, lovely creatures.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, and I just want to note before we vote, consent agenda is one is to accept the donation of $40 from Ron Hildreth in memory of Carolyn Hildreth. Also, we got an $800 donation from David Scott for Aransas County Animal Control. And we've got a $1,500 donation from Les and Mary Puckett, of the Children's Foundation.
Awesome.
And there is also a reappointment. County Judge is nominating Betty Stiles as a member of the Aransas County Tree Committee. All right. Let's vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo, aye. Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. Unanimous. I have a motion for item number 10.
I'll make a motion to discuss and approve of the final plat for the Islands of Rockport Unit 2 subdivision. This plat has already been preliminarily approved and are seeking general approval, or excuse me, seeking approval for the final plat. Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion?
I called Ms. Como about this the other day and she said she would get back to me. So I appreciate your being here. Could you just explain to us, as far as this development, which city services are available and in place?
Yes, ma'am. They will have sewer services, water services, and gas services from the city of Rockport. They will be utilizing a lift station that was in place for phase one.
Okay.
They will be, they've extended the sewer services. There's no additional new lift station that needed for phase two. It's all in phase one.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? All right, let's vote.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo. Aye. Commissioner Dupnick
Aye.
and Judge Garza.
Aye, 5-0, unanimous. All right, motion for item 11.
I move to approve exercising the county's proper priority option to purchase 1.6632 acres of land for $55,000 plus costs that TxDOT has determined to be surplus, and authorizing county judge to either sign the statement of intent to purchase or to execute a waiver. But I move that we sign the statement of intent to purchase the property.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
David Reed.
Okay,
Colin, could you put up that map, please? Can you zoom out? Okay. The first item is dealing with the blue portion of land at the top of that map. I want to go ahead and talk about both of them, the next item as well at the same time. The second one will deal with the blue area at the bottom of the map. So what this map is showing is the right of way that would have been the extension of the bypass had the state decided not to build that. And this portion, and it starts at the airport and goes up to 35 or 1781, the north end of it. The TxDOT has declared that to be surplus and is open to sell it to anybody that wants it. The first item on the agenda is this small piece what is it, 1 point something acre?
1.66.
55,000. And the way this works is that they have an offer to buy it for that amount of money. The county has the right to match that plus the survey of the appraisal. Not sure how much that costs, but something. If we decide that we want it, we have to have that money. We'll tell the state that we want it, and I guess they'll sell it to us. You want to deal with this first one? or-
Yes.
Okay, so this is it.
What's your recommendation?
I know, the big picture is that there's always been some talk about using this right away for the county for a jogging trail or something like that. The right of way is pretty wide. Through there, there's a lot of right of way that we could still buy if we wanted to. This specific particular piece is, I'm not for sure who's buying this. They don't give me that information, but I assume that it's the adjacent property owner.
Yeah.
That's, trying to develop his property. I don't see a big need for the county to have this.
All right.
Okay.
Has anybody said where the money's supposed to come from if we would exercise the option we have?
Well, that's always a good question, but
You don't want it to come out of your budget, I take it.
absolutely not.
And you don't foresee buying it for easements, for drainage or any?
I don't think there's a drainage issue that we need it for. And like I said, next to it, that open area, there's still a lot of right of way that we
Right.
could buy. If the county, and this is an if the county does want to build a walking trail through there, I mean, it can still be done. It doesn't have to, it isn't dependent on owning this piece of property.
Okay.
I'd like to add to this information, and David and I actually took a drive out along that area about a week ago. And attending a meeting of what was the Live Oak Conservancy about a year and a half ago. I know Earl Matthew, who's very involved in Aransas First, was passionate about this entire right of way and drove me out there to take a look at it. I was not really familiar with it until I took that trip. He explained that TxDOT had offered this to the county, I believe at no cost, but certainly at a minimal cost. 5 or 6 years ago, some of the commissioners may remember that. And at the time, the county chose not to go forward with that, thinking that, well, if they took it and didn't do anything with it, they could just sell it. And TxDOT's attitude, well, if you're going to sell it, we'll keep it and we'll sell it ourselves. So that mindset now has come around full circle and it's being sold. Aransas First is very interested in helping to develop a green space that would go through that area. There are other entities, I'm sure, that would like maybe Aransas Pathways that would like to have that. And I just think it's important for the county to acquire some green space while there still is some available.
And
I think we need to look at Aransas First is a great thing. I think that we need to get a vision of how much is enough when you start buying up Aransas County and taking it, I'm assuming, taking it off the tax roll. If you look on that map, the right of way is huge that goes through there.
I see that.
That corner is off to one side. I think you have to be real selective of if you're going to really use it when you do that, because at some point in time, the public's basically picking up the cost of what you take off. It hasn't been on the rolls for some time, but if it sells, it'll be back on the tax roll. Personally, I don't think that particular place is one that I think we ought to buy.
Do you know what the rationalization was when it was offered the first time?
I don't think they ever offered it to the county for free.
No,
I
don't-
think there was one of the original, when we had to take that part of 1781 back. We negotiated with them. We were trying to, it was because when the right of way went through the airport, the county sold right of way without getting permission from the aviation people to do it. So we had to go get it back. And we ended up with 1781. In the process, we tried to trade the state airport road for 1781, where it wouldn't cost as much, but in the end, we had to take the whole right of way over. I mean, the existing 1781, and so you have this right of way is another right of way that, the bypass right of way. But I don't believe that they ever offered it to us for free. I think there was.
I don't think it ever came to, I don't remember it coming to.
And the
board.
price they had before people started negotiating with them was much higher than what the prices that are on here are.
Thank you.
I don't think that it's a good idea. We have a lot of little spots in the county that public have access to. And some of them we're not utilizing as much as I think we should. Unless this is some strategic thing where we need a pond or we need something of that, I'm not in favor of it.
I would say we have right away at either side of the road. If we wanted to put it some other public recreational use in that little section, I agree. It's an opportunity to put it on the tax base.
Is this the same tract of land that was offered to the county that Commissioner Rousseau was talking about earlier? I thought it was like between the end of the bypass to airport is it Airport Road?
There's two sections of right of way that the bypass was going to be extended through. One of them is between 3036 and Airport Road. The state is not going to give up that property. They've decided that they still want it to use as they feel.
But that's one that Commissioner Rousseau was referring to earlier.
I don't know
Okay.
that it was ever offered to the county. I mean, I was not part of any of those conversations.
That was the conversation after Earl Matthew talked to me about it, I had with the judge. So
Okay.
looking from, yes, we didn't talk about the extent of it, but
Yeah.
we certainly, when I was telling him, it was the area that if you're on Business 35 and you go down Mesquite or Chaparral or Cactus and it dead ends,
Yeah.
that space on over to, I guess, Spanish Wood or whatever's on the other side.
Yeah. I know the Judge Mills had talked to the state about getting that at one point. I don't know what those conversations were.
All right.
Call for the question.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Excuse me.
What are
I'm
you
sorry.
voting? What are we
That's
voting
wrong.
on?
That's a nay.
Voting to approve is
The
on the
purchase.
floor.
Yeah. I don't want to buy it.
Commissioner Casterline,
Nay.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
and Commissioner Dupnick,
Nay.
Judge Garza.
Nay. 4-1.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for number 12?
I move to disapprove exercising the county's priority to purchase 6.2646 acres of land that TxDOT has determined to be surplus and authorizing the county judge to either sign a statement of intent to purchase or sign a waiver of priority rights. Cost of the land is $169,282 plus cost of survey, appraisal, closing costs, and any additional expenses incurred.
Second.
David, would you explain the parameters there?
Yes, okay, so this is another piece of property that TxDOT is trying to sell. This is a little different in that the property to the right of the blue is owned by West Purdy. And when TxDOT decided not to build that road, extend it, then and that property is no longer right of way, then it landlocks Mr. Purdy. He doesn't have any other access to his property. For that reason, I'm very hesitant to recommend that the county buy this. Now, I will say I agree with Commissioner Russo about preserving land and trails and trees and all that. You know, that's a good thing. Colin, could you zoom out so we could see the whole right of way for just a second? So even if these two properties are not sold, the bottom end just north of the blue does have access to 1781. And then the top end has access to 35 and to 1781. If the county wanted to obtain that, I think that's probably not a bad thing to think about. But let's also think about the price of what that will be. If you look at the blue at the bottom at $169,000, and then you extrapolate that through the whole, we're talking about a sizable amount of money. And I'm not saying we don't need to do it. I'm just saying we need to think about what we really want. And the narrow end of it is like 200 feet wide. I mean, it's a pretty wide swath of land.
Another thing that happened when the county put the game fence around the airport, there was an old oil field road that went into Mr. Purdy's property that crossed the airport property that wasn't fenced. And unbeknownst to us at the time, he had talked to the airport manager at that time, who didn't want to move the fence over a little bit where he could still access. Sometime later, he talked to myself and David Reed one day, and we kind of said, wish you would have brought it to the court. We didn't see any reason why we couldn't have moved the fence over a little bit for him to keep access to his property. So we had some part in him being cut off from access to his property.
Well, and I understand that there's already been an offer equaling ours, or we equaled it, whichever one, or matched it rather. And that's $169,000. That would be off the tax rolls if we took it. And, I realize that some of it's, a good idea and some of it's, a better idea. But I don't think that's $169,000 that we need to arbitrarily take off the tax roll.
Right. Now, I would suggest if the court did want to purchase some of this right away or all of this right away, there's nothing preventing us from making a deal with TxDOT either. Not the parts in blue, but everything in between. We'd have to get an appraisal, we'd have to get a survey. Those are the first two things that happen, and then show TxDOT what they come to and make them an offer.
David, do you think we need to table this until you've had time to do that?
We could table this, although there's a timeline associated with our right of refusal. And
what is that?
It's 30 days from the time that the letter is written, which was December 19th. So we have a week.
10 days.
I think we have ample property available to us if we want to try to buy some.
My suggestion
more than we can
would be
afford.
that we really don't need those two end pieces to do what we want to do. But if we want to make an offer on the rest of them, that's up to the court.
David, for future reference, if county was to buy a property like this, could we give Mr. Purdy or anybody else right away?
Certainly. Yeah.
What is the red line down towards the bottom?
City limits.
Okay,
What is it?
but not a street, city limits. But it's not a street or a
No.
road. Does either side of that blue area that we're discussing now touch a road?
The western edge of that runs along 1781.
Okay.
Is there potential for the county to need this, or so we negotiate with the state to maybe have a county road through there?
I have for a long time thought that we needed to extend Silverleaf to 1781. that's a possible area that we've looked at of possibly doing that. We, if we were to extend 17-8 or Silverleaf, we would come south on that right of way and then pop out somewhere where we can, probably in that blue area, not necessarily. I think Mr. Purdy's intent is to make his larger track accessible and then sell this to a developer. Is that correct? And I think the developer is going to need access to whatever they do, and the county could certainly work with the developer about making sure it's something that fits with the county's long-term plans, transportation wise.
All right. Well,
If we, let me just, one more thing. So if we decided to purchase this, then we could, any developer that comes in there, we could actually set as large an entrance or entrances to that property as TxDOT would allow. I mean, that would give us control over future development, but and allowing an entry point there for Mr. Purdy would allow him access to his property and ultimately the developer.
We could do that, and I would have to say that we don't need to own the property to do that. We could just put that in our subdivision regulations. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, then that answers that question.
You know, when that plat comes to the court.
Well, and if that it belongs to the person that owns the larger property, then that would certainly be advantageous for them to approve that. If it was a separate property, that might be a little harder to align.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, let's go and vote.
Commissioner Cheney?
Now we're voting on a nay, right?
No,
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah, we're
To
voting
not
on
approve.
turning this down. Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous. Let's get to number 13.
I move to authorize the county judge to issue a variance to the half-acre lot requirement and sign the final replat of lots 12R and 16R, block 135, Manning Edition.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
I believe it's a
I'm
it's
on
a
one.
replat to make existing lots larger than they are. Is that not
Yes.
right?
Right.
That's correct.
And it is in the city, but the city that we do the city's septic services for them, and they don't have any sewer in that area.
Correct.
As Valerie's noted in her agenda memo, the city is supporting this replat.
Excuse me, but Valerie is also on Zoom if you
Yeah.
have any questions for her.
Yes, I think she's trying to respond, but she doesn't have a good connection.
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Correct. So the city is on board with the replat, and we are just making these lots bigger.
Any other questions? All right, let's go and vote.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 14.
I move to approve the list of projects in the order of priority for the Community Development Block Grant Regional Council of Governments Method of Distribution and Mitigation Grant administered through the Texas General Land Office.
I'll second that.
David, did you prioritize them? I didn't notice on the list that they had been prioritized.
Yes, come on.
They were prioritized at the roads.
I know, but the list itself, we don't, I'm pretty sure we're not getting enough money to do all of them on the list. Are you gonna come through and recommend a priority for the ones on the list?
Yes, I was asked to come up with potential projects that we may want to do, and I think this is way more than we'll have money for. But, you know, as a priority, you know, that's how it was last prioritized, the roads and the.
Oh, the way they're listed on there?
The way they're listed on there. There may be other reasons not to do a higher priority. Right of way issues or things like
Okay,
that. But
on the Ninth Street is listed. Does that include crossing over the Ruby Island ditch and going to the east?
It does not, because we don't do that now. The road projects are roads that we actually maintain, even though they're not paved, but we do maintain that. We could certainly look at crossing Ruby Island, but.
Well, if you, like say,
Yeah.
if you do the portion that you're maintaining, that leaves a short section
To get across.
and it creates a evacuation point
Yeah.
from that area.
I know on a different grant project, I had recommended coming across Ruby with Ninth Street. We could add that.
David, would you give a little more background about item number 1 under drainage improvement? Because this is something that's been talked about at the stormwater and floodplain, and I think it's a great idea.
This is Tule Creek.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we had put up a list of drainage projects, one of them being Tule Creek watershed. And the idea is to analyze that hydraulically and hydrologically, the whole watershed, and look at what we can do to make improvements, see how it's functioning now, but look at what happens if we put detention ponds here and there and things like that, and then see what it does when we get those big rains like we had recently. I think it's a good project for the county. It's a good project for the city. To just do the engineering is fairly inexpensive. I use inexpensive lightly. I mean, it's still $150,000-$300,000 probably, but it's a lot cheaper than construction. But it is a good idea to get the data and get the models generated, and then we'll have that to look at future development and see what kind of impact it will have on.
It's a proactive stance instead of reactive.
It is.
Once we have problems with drain.
It
and
is
flooding.
proactive.
Yes.
The
Good.
the counties, even cities, very seldom have the opportunity to be proactive. You know, we're doing things because we have a problem right now. So this is certainly proactive.
Good.
And it's just a model, computer model, new development, put in the data, you could see where the water's going.
Right. And part of this, I would suggest that what we do is look at future development now and start generating those models of what happens when they do get developed. We know that they're getting developed.
Right.
We have a drainage problem now because we've not addressed the drainage problem up until maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago. And
Right.
started really putting some money into it with the passage of the drainage, road and drainage tax.
When you prioritize, David, do you put more weight when you're getting down to dollars over the road projects, or I know it's a hard thing to balance?
I've never tried to compare roads and drainage. It's kind of apples to oranges.
When it comes to prioritizing for the dollars, how do you go about that?
I come to Commissioner's Court and say,
Okay.
I give you my opinion on a particular project, whether I think it's more important or less important than a road project. I would say generally drainage is more important in that more people are impacted by it not being done right. You know, if it's a crappy road, you can still drive up and down it.
Thank you.
All right, let's vote.
Aye.
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 Aye, unanimous. I have a motion for number 15.
I move to approve adoption of resolution number R 012023, awarding a grant administration contract to GrantWorks Incorporated for the Community Development Block Grant Regional Council of Governments Method of Distribution and Mitigation Grant administered through the Texas General Land Office for compensation in the amount of $500,166.90. And I think that's based on a percentage of the amount of money that we'll have.
Yes, it's 4.86%, which is less than what is allowed by GLO. We brought this to a special meeting on the 3rd, and you did award to GrantWorks. GLO requires that we have a resolution. So what we've done now is just bring back the resolution to just close the circle for GLO.
We need a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo. Aye. Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve authorizing the county judge to sign a change order number 1 for the Bahia Bay Drainage Improvement Project. Change order is $18,870.50 increase over the contract with Gerke Excavating Incorporated for the relocation of an existing gas line.
I'll second that.
I have a couple of questions, David. Do we have additional funds available for this change order?
We do.
Okay, and was the city included in our planning meetings before this project was begun?
Great.
Not specifically in the planning meetings.
We had talked about this project in stormwater. There is a city representative there. City staff routinely attends those. And just so you know, the problem that caused this was the gas line wasn't located. The city did locate the water lines. They failed to do the gas line for whatever reason. I don't know, different department or something, but anyway, when we had our pre-construction meeting, and I am glad that we found this at pre-construction instead of while they were out there. with
Everything's
equipment.
done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have a estimated completion date of that project yet?
69 days. Project starting as soon as this gas line is relocated.
Okay. So we'll be, that project will be complete.
Yep.
We got our box culverts and everything.
Sorry.
We already got all our covers, culverts and everything in.
Yep.
Okay, good.
They are in storage from what I hear, and they're ready to go.
All right.
Is this work ready to begin? Moving this gas line?
They were set to mobilize today with the result of this change order.
Perfect.
I will
Commissioner
remind,
Cheney?
oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to remind commissioners that this project is being paid through the ARPA funds. So we do have the funds available, the 18,000.
All right, let's vote.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo. Aye. Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 17.
I move to approve renaming Aransas County Animal Control and replacing it with Aransas County Animal Care and including renaming this department in the county's 2023 budget.
Second.
Well, we need a date to actually make this change, like first of the month or tomorrow or sometime.
Commissioner, if you'd like to do so, you can. Otherwise, you're welcome to make it effective as of today's date. But Lori may need a little bit of time to change over everything if she wants to weigh in.
Can you come on the microphone? Oh.
There are a few things that I probably can change rather quickly. Some is gonna take time. We did purchase some new uniforms, but you know, it can go until they run their lifespan, which at my department is about 6 months and they run through those shirts. So that kind of thing. I think everything is doable until we can catch up.
So you think if February 1st would be a good start date?
Well,
I mean, you take a long time to get everything done, but
with this comes the new volunteer forms and policy book, and those things are ready to roll out today. They are all in set, so everybody will be under one umbrella. So those are all good to go. We've had a lot of help from Jen Osteen in getting those ready. So we're ready to roll out with the packets and that. So we're good to go, I believe.
and so effective today.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Do you have an anticipated cost though for what it's going to run to rebrand, like the logos on the truck? You mentioned the shirts you can just do as they wear out and replaced.
Well, it just has like control that's just changing like the 4 letters. It shouldn't be super difficult. I don't think our one truck is about ready. It's a 2015. So it's about end of its life cycle either way. I think we'll be okay. It's a transition. It's just, we do a lot of those things already. It's just the name and the negative connotations that go with it, I believe.
Yeah, there's going to be a transition period. I suggest don't throw away all your business cards, use them up.
Well, that's kind of,
yeah.
we can put
It's gonna
labels
overlap.
over them. I'm recycle, reuse, not start again.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. Unanimous. Do I have a motion for number 18?
I move to approve the December 2022 indigent healthcare report.
Second.
I just have a question for our treasurer. And I do review these, but I'll be honest, I don't keep them after we've looked at them for court. So we had 21 clients in the month of December. Was that an unusually high month or is that regular?
That is a normal on the indigent healthcare side.
Okay.
And then 79 on prescriptions on inmates was a little bit high.
And our hospitalization was definitely down. So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. Unanimous. Do I have a motion for number 19?
I move to approve a one-time purchase of vacation and compensatory time hours accrued by employees in any county department that are in excess of the maximum number of hours that can carry over to the next calendar year.
I'll second that.
I would like to amend that motion if I could. And Jen, I'll just look to you for how we might do that.
To do what?
Commissioner, they would need to vote on that motion
Right.
first, or the person making the motion could move to amend. But after discussion, that person may choose to do so. So my recommendation would be that you move to discussion.
Can you repeat what you said the amendment was?
I didn't make the amendment.
Oh, okay.
I just was asking how to proceed. And she said perhaps during discussion, you could either change it or we'd have a vote. And then depending on how the vote goes, I can make an amended motion.
It would be another motion.
Okay.
Commissioner.
Right then. So begin with discussion.
Yeah.
All right. This came up, I believe, at least in discussion to the court in October, as I remember. And I believe it was started with the sheriff asking for consideration of folks maybe in the jail department. I don't know if the sheriff's deputies were included.
It was just the jail.
Okay. And then based on other feedback or information, the decision was made, well, if we're going to do it for one department, maybe we need to look at it across the board, which we've been doing for several months. I'd like to bring a couple of things to the attention of the court and the folks here. In our handbook on compensatory time, The statement is made that any compensatory time earned should be used within 120 days of the date that the overtime was worked. That's not that they have 120 days accrued. That's if they earn comp time, it will be paid out to them within 120 days. There is a qualifier. Unless a declared emergency occurred in that fiscal year, or if the department head or elected official decides otherwise. Elected officials and department heads have the authority and the ability to pay out compensatory time. It does not need to come to the court. Therefore, if there's comp time on the books that's over 120 days old, it can just be paid out. That's what we set up in the policy. We shouldn't even really be voting on it as a court. It's the department head or elected official's decision. It's there, they can pay it out. Right, that's what I have to say about comp time. As far as vacation time, in our handbook, accumulation of vacation leave. Employees are encouraged to use accrued vacation leave each year. Pay in lieu of vacation is not permitted. A carryover of vacation leave is available if an employee cannot use accrued vacation leave in a year. They may carry over up to 80 hours into the next calendar year beginning on January 1st. However, at the end of each year, all unused vacation leave in excess of 80 hours is dropped from the employee's account without compensation, unless a presidentially declared emergency occurred in the current year that prevented the employee from taking vacation leave. I don't believe we had a presidentially declared emergency in 2022. This has pretty much been in the handbook for at least the last 11 years that I've been associated with the county. So during orientation, new employees are informed that once they get over 80 hours in their account, if they don't use it that year, it's going to be dropped. It isn't like it's a new situation that we just brought up. Department heads and elected officials are charged with responsible management of their departments. And as I noted last court period, we do have departments that monitor and make sure that their employees use the vacation so they are not carrying over in excess of 80 hours to the new year. And for that, I congratulate them. Since we started talking about this in November and December, some department heads and elected officials have worked closely with their staff to get those who have more than 80 hours on the books down below the maximum so they won't lose any. I would recommend that we give elected officials and department heads until the end of January to get with their staff and burn the vacation that they can to get them below the 80-hour mark. And if that doesn't happen, we need to follow the policy. If we have policies, we need to follow them. Anytime you get into litigation, I tell you this from an HR standpoint of many years, if you don't follow your policies, you have a very hard time defending anything in court. So my recommendation would be we leave comp time alone, let department heads and elected officials decide what they want to do within their own departments, follow the policy. And as far as vacation, that we allow till the end of this month. I know some departments have been burning through the holidays and this past pay period. But any that's still on the book after the end of January, over the 80 hours, that's 2 weeks, that it is negated, just like we say in the policy.
Commissioner, can I just, from a point of clarification, are you suggesting that this be a one-time, 1 month extension of the amount, the window to use those vacation hours, or that it be annually extended through the
No,
month of
ma'am.
January?
I am saying this particular time.
Just to clarify, this payroll that we're working on right now also is one that was included in the time that they could use time. So the extension is going to be for a 2-week period.
Right.
Because we already have the extension through this pay period because part of it was in 22.
Correct.
So it's a 2-week extension.
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Rousseau. Our compensation we have to pay for the hours worked through our plan. But when it comes to vacation, it's been very clear, and employees have responsibility as well as supervisors to make sure that's followed. The other thing, that's unbudgeted tax dollars that are going out. And for the most part, most of our county employees have been very cognizant of what their responsibilities are. And I think they need to be rewarded for what they're doing. The only way to reward them is to make sure people that have not followed policy are not rewarded for their negligence.
We have departments that are smaller than others and have other restrictions, like we have some of them that if they mandatorily had to take their vacation, they basically would have to close the door till they came back from vacation. You also have state regulations on law enforcement of how many people you need to be there. So that kind of affects some of those things that, if you've got to have a certain number of deputies on duty and things like that. I really know. I hate for somebody not to get paid for one of those because they didn't have time to take off, or their boss didn't want them to take off because they didn't want to have to close down.
I think that's a point well taken. I do believe that policies need to be followed, but a generalized policy for a corporation like the county is a little dangerous sometimes, because you do have law enforcement and other places that are not able to take their vacation time, although we should be able to certainly within 2 years get the vacation down. But I think there is some I think we need to look at that policy during this next year and maybe look at how it affects individual departments where they would have to do things. And it may end up being that we need to look at our staffing again. Ever so often we need to look at our staffing and make sure that we're staffed properly, or what we need to do to fill vacancies. I think this may be indicative of a little bit deeper problem.
The department heads and their supervisors, as well as the employees, need to be cognizant at first of the year that you only have that, what the demands of that job are, and they need to start scheduling their vacation at the first of the year. And I think it even talks about using seniority, the employee seniority in the policy, that if someone wants the same days, they look at seniority as a level that decides who gets those days. And I know that's not always a schedule that can be adhered to because of emergencies, but I think we need to get back on track, because I've seen there's some employees on there that it's really hard to believe they haven't had time to get their hours down considerably.
And I agree with Commissioner Cheney. I mean, we need to review these policies. And, I used to be a police officer, and I know what it's like driving home into shift in 5 minutes, right when you're about to leave, you pull someone over and then you're there for another 5 hours. So, there may be some exceptions to the policy that we have to add or include, but
we need to be looking at our policies all the time.
Absolutely.
Everything. I appreciate Ms. Russo bringing that to our attention. Under the current policy that we have no responsibility to increase the amount of hours that we have unless we change the policy. So the question is, do we change the policy or do we do an exception? I don't think an exception is allowed in this, would it? Ms. Osteen, would it be allowed?
Yes, an exception would be allowed if the court decided to vote today to do this as a one-time action. That is allowed. Alternatively, we could consider making a change to the policy if you'd like us to work on that and bring something back to you. But I don't know that we would be ready to do that until our committees are scheduled to meet again, which is not currently on the books. So it'd be up to you. It would be lawful for you to make a one-time decision to pay this out, or alternatively to take no action.
I just, we could do it one time, but one time becomes another time. You did it back then. And I really, much as I want to vote to approve everything that they've worked for, and I hate to see them in any way not compensated for the vacation that they've earned. But we got policies, and as Commissioner Russo said, they've been in place. And I think that look back, not necessarily to the managers, but to the job. And we really may need to look at staffing, increasing 1 or 2 people. And, we had the floater for a while for this very reason. And I think we may need to go back to that. That's not as efficient as somebody who's got 20 years in the office, but it is a body that can answer questions. So.
All right, so we got a motion on the floor.
I would like to say something else, if I may. I asked the question at our last regular meeting about if there was any impact on Stone Garden, and I believe the answer was no, it really didn't have an impact. But in visiting with a couple of other elected officials, I believe that there is an impact. And Sheriff, you can address this probably easily, but Stone Garden is a special grant that we receive for the sheriff's deputies, and it pays overtime to them when they are engaged in certain activities other than what they would regularly be doing with the county, say in conjunction with Parks and Wildlife or DPS or something. So it actually prevents, I think, some of our deputies from taking vacation time or burning through comp time. But again, we're not going to even talk about comp time because that's elected officials and department heads jurisdiction. But it's a person who could take vacation time saying, well, wait a minute, I can work Stone Garden and get overtime. And so there is really a reduction in when the officer may be available or willing to take vacation.
Stone Garden is an interdiction grant written for the purpose of looking for 2 items going north and 2 items going south. It allows agencies to put officers on the road looking for that. But I'm going to back up to October. My initial request did not include my patrol deputies. It was about the jail staff who was in an enclosed environment, who was tightly regulated by the jail commission about ratios of employees to detainees. They didn't have the luxury. They do not qualify for Stone Garden. Dispatch is not paid in Stone Garden. Stone Garden has no implication or impact on my original request and where I came to y'all for.
But it does on the deputies.
It could, they can make a decision, yes, as to whether or not they want to, because if they don't have productive time in the amount of 43 hours a week, they are not compensated under Stone Garden. It's above their scheduled 43 hours. It could, but that was, I didn't come asking for that reason, because they have the ability to make some of those choices. But I will stand that with the jail staff that I was asking for, they don't have that luxury. We took on additional tasks last year. We put a detention officer in the courtroom at the request of the district judges, though it wasn't mandated. Mid-year and budget time, y'all did approve additional 2 jailers to where this year, that's not going to be a drawback. We didn't and cannot control the hospitalization of any of the prisoners or the feds. And when the federal prisoners go to the hospital and stay overnight, contract mandates that we put officers there with them. And while we're reimbursed for that, it doesn't change the head count. To the question and issue y'all raised about it may be time to look at a staffing study across the county, that may be a step going forward in the other departments aside from mine as well. But we did spend last week drafting a schedule, put together a calendar deal where all 70 of my employees will be picking vacations the first part of this year so that we can get them on a board and try to regulate that and push the vacations out better. But this was about an isolated group of people that, while we might not have had a federally or even county mandated pandemic, I did have 2 that broke out in the jail, one of which involved 5 employees and 16 prisoners. When I have 5 people out that are sick with COVID and we've gone into a lockdown mode, we kind of shut down and we Now we get in an overtime deal because we still got to meet the ratio with the jail commission. We don't have a lot of wiggle room in those things, but we brought you a list of the issues that drove that within the jail staff this year, trying to show where huge amount of hours went, the federal prisoners, the pregnancies that we had, the hospitalizations of them, and how that drove and depleted the hours the jail had available, and I'm still having to make that 1:48 ratio. But that's as far as the Stone Garden, that is a choice that are made by patrol deputies, but that was not a part of my original request to this court. They made a conscious decision, and I don't know that they, I can't say that I know of a deputy that said, gee whiz, I'm going to work and pass the vacation so I can do Stone Garden. That I don't know. But it would, productive time is an indicator factor in that. Yes, if they don't have the 43 hours, they cannot qualify for the Stone Garden on a weekly basis or within a pay period, 86 hours. But we are reimbursed for that. It's not in conjunction with Parks and Wildlife or DPS. It's independently operated and run. The city does receive Stone Garden money as well through a grant the sheriff's office gets. But it's augments patrol looking for 2 items going north and 2 items going south. I mean, it's money and guns going south and people and drugs going north.
So you said that your supervisors have amended schedules and they're burning through the vacation hours the first of this year?
No, ma'am. I said, we have prepared schedules for this year's vacation schedule for the entire year. We're going to start putting it on a chart, try to get it posted on site where the employees can look at it as well and see who's got June off and who's out in April or whatever. To where we don't have, our problem historically is at the end of the year, October, November, December, or even in September, we start pushing the issue because they've pushed it out and waited till the end of the year. We came in October talking about the jail staff because I needed to know then, was I going to be forced to push people out, bring deputies in and put them in the jail to stay in compliance with the jail commission from a 1:48 ratio and maintain operational procedures. Didn't get a direction, didn't get, because we tabled and amended and it grew into a bigger project. So I mean, it's still back to, no, it's to address the vacation going forward, but it wouldn't have changed what happened in the jail this year. Or this past year, 2020.
How many hours are you looking at now in vacation that would be paid out?
Within the jail, I don't know. I mean, I've got some that are on vacation right now still, and I had one come back from patrol. And so the numbers that were posted last week may not even be the lowest number yet.
Well,
That does not include anything that was in this picture coming up.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not going to be more than 9,500.
More than likely less.
And that's just in the jail.
Okay. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Sheriff, because of the fact that there are departments within the city, within the county, that are not standard, 40 hours a week type departments. And there are, like with the sheriff's office and other things where whether they want to take vacation or not take vacation at that particular time, that's not really the controlling factor. The controlling factor is if they're going to be available to take vacation. And I think that needs to be addressed in the policy if there's some reason, and the reason has to be documented and presented by the supervisor, why this particular employee or this group of employees could not take vacation during this specific time that they may have been scheduled. I mean, I can't see any reason why employees can't schedule their vacation time, but I can see the need for supervisors to say, you can't go because this particular employee has COVID or has had a death in the family or something. You got to stay and work this day.
I think so. The demands of the business will dictate that more in the jail than anything else that we deal with. When I originally brought that, I believe the number we were looking at in the detention center was somewhere around $18,000 or $19,000. And so we have made an effort to push that number down. And when we did bring it, we knew then that it would be a little bit lower because we had stuff scheduled in there. And the final impact number will be a little bit lower than that. Because I do know of one or two that are out that one of them, I think, had even left the country for a little while, but recognizing that theirs was not as much of a leeway as the patrol group had, I didn't come asking for the patrol, but just the detention staff.
I do agree. I think the sheriff's jailers, that department is the only department that really has a justification for an exception to our county policies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that can be amended somehow, just to address that and not approve paying the other comp time and overtime.
I think we have a motion on the floor. We could vote on that, or you could amend it.
Let's repeat the motion.
The motion was to approve it as it's on the agenda.
Right.
Well, I don't have a problem approving it as it's on the agenda if it deals strictly with the jailers.
But it doesn't.
Right, it doesn't.
I would accept the amendment. I'd say vote on it like it is.
Vote it like it is, and if it's doesn't pass, we'll
We'll try another motion.
Yeah.
Are there any other departments besides the jail department right now that this would affect today?
Yes, they're in that handout.
Yeah, I just got it though. I didn't have a chance to read it. Just got this part. So you're looking at $62,000 is what we'd end up.
Less than 62,000, that would be the high. That's, we've got another pay period that's coming off. And then it's, well.
But doesn't that 62 also include the comp? Which it's absurd to, okay. Which we really don't even need to vote on the comp since it's considered and taken care of in the handbook.
Let's vote.
What I've got right here. A 20,800 for everyone, less anything that's on the high.
So the amount that if we just did the jailers.
It's the 9,500.
And we could do that because if the attendance to job is a state requirement. Attendance to the job, they cannot have deputies, they cannot have a jail without a certain manpower base in which to man the jail.
Let's go and vote, or
I don't mean to make it complicated, but it does seem that the problem really is with the jail. And I think we need to.
I think there's other departments that have the same issue. They might not want to get up and say it.
Yeah, I agree.
I call the question.
all right, let's vote.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay,
Commissioner Dupnick,
Nay.
Judge Garza.
Nay. Then pass.
so I would like to propose an amended motion,
New motion.
a new motion. Okay, I'd like to propose a new motion where we would not consider any payout of compensatory time and allow it to be handled per policy. That we would allow purchase of vacation hours for the jail department only that have not been used by the first pay period in February.
Second.
And the rest of the vacation for the other organizations by the end of the month. You want to amend that, or?
Yes. I'll amend that motion to be that we don't consider compensatory time and let it be handled as in the handbook, that we pay out vacation for the jailers only that isn't used by February. And that we delete any overage in vacation time in other departments that isn't used by the end of January.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Cheney.
I'm not sure I understand what we're doing.
So
It would allow the other departments another pay period to burn vacation time that people have accrued over 80.
Could we amend that to say 3 months?
Well, I think we have to vote on this motion first.
Well, but it's still on the table, so you want to?
No.
I think she said no.
I think so too.
All the questions.
Did
Commissioner
Commissioner
Cheney?
Dudnick want to second the? Did Commissioner Dupnick want to second that amended motion?
Second.
Commissioner Cheney.
Well, we need to get it done. I'm gonna say aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick.
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous 5-0. Right.
I have a question, maybe, I don't know if you call it a point of order on item 20. After investigating this, are the monies that are in this agenda item step increases? Jackie? Are the monies that are in this agenda item step increases?
No, Commissioner, they are not step increases. It's a reclassification to incorporate a previous stipend into the salary. So they would be moving steps in order to accomplish that reclassification.
Exactly. They were a lump sum stipend and we converted it into steps so that it will fall in with our grade and step pay scales.
So the answer to my question is yes, it's a step increase.
It would be a step increase, but it's monies that was already there.
I understand that.
Okay.
Money's already in the budget,
Yes.
but it's actually a step increase and not based of some other kind of pay rate.
Not
So in the policy, right now, step increases do not come to the court.
Anything over 3 does come to the court. Yes, sir.
And how many is there?
For the community development, it's a 4-step, and for the other environmental health, it is a 5-step.
6 is what your memo says.
My memo says 6.
It's 5.
We did check that. It's 5. And for the other one, it is a grade 25. I had a grade 23 on both of them. But for the community development, it is a grade 25, which he is currently already on. It's not a change in grade, it's only changes in steps. But anything over 3 does come to Commissioner's Court.
So whenever this occurred in whatever department has this, that should have been brought to the supervisors. The supervisor should have brought to your attention. So y'all could decide whether it was a 1 or 2 or 3-step, which need to come to court. So this was we just missed the step increases. Is that correct?
When this was done in 2018, it was done just as I want to do this for a job well done type thing, extra work.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to read the motion and have a second.
Okay.
I'll second it for the point of discussion.
Did somebody?
Made a motion.
There's no
I thought
motion.
You said you did make a motion.
No,
No,
I just
you
asked
made
a
a
question. I
clarification.
just asked for clarification.
We have a motion.
I move that we approve the payment of the retroactive pay for Andrew Duncan investigator.
The wrong agenda.
We're on 20.
On 20. All right, well, we'll get to that one now. I move to all right, how much volume is in? Well, I move to approve salary adjustments for Community Development Director and Environmental Health Director for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
All right, I'm gonna go and give some background on the stuff we have in our folders here. During Hurricane Harvey, John Strothman and Valerie Gonzalez were instrumental in the debris removal and recovery of Aransas County. They were both given a stipend of $10,000 per year for this effort, and it was funded non-departmental. During the 2023 budget process, this stipend was included in their annual salary in their respective departments, and the stipend was removed from non-departmental. So they were given $10,000 because they had extra duties during that time. And I guess they were working around the clock. That was 5 years ago. They've been getting it every year for the past 5 years. This year, but it was being paid from non-departmental. This year, during the budget process, they took that out of non-departmental and put it into their respective budgets to try to, what did you say?
We wanted to clarify and put it in the correct place in the budget process. When we discussed the budgets, we did inform commissioners at that time that they were receiving this and that it was moved into their budgets.
So they were given this $10,000 for their extra duties that they were doing per Hurricane Harvey. They're not doing those duties anymore.
Yes, they still are something.
To some point, they still have some of those duties. But there are other people who still are doing that stuff that
Absolutely.
were not given that stipend at the time either.
Well, is this a question of utilizing the step increase chart realistically for what the duties have evolved into rather than a stipend?
I believe so. I
Yeah,
believe
you
so.
know,
I think it needs to go into steps.
And those people during that period of time probably didn't get the step increases that other people did.
Which people? The two that got the 10,000?
No,
Right.
others.
No,
The
the two that got the stipends?
two that we're talking about with the stipend.
I'm not aware of them getting any less of a step increase. Commissioner, I don't know that they were actually ever identified and not receive a step increase on top of this.
I just feel the $10,000 was given because they're doing the debris removal and they're not doing that anymore. It should have been taken. I've had jobs where I've had extra duties, given extra money, and as soon as I was off those duties, that money was taken away. Any other discussion?
I don't think, I know like you said, a comment was made, there are other employees still doing Hurricane Harvey duties. And at all different levels, I'm sure. I can understand that maybe they had to, someone felt it was justified to give them the $10,000 per year during the hurricane effort. But now we're 5 years past it, and it's hard for me to believe that it justifies adjusting their salaries $10,000 without some further justification or studies compared to what they were making initially.
And if it was a reclassification, is there a what's it called, job descriptions? Are there new job descriptions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Well, I know Ms. Butler's department, Public Facilities, is still working weekends and weekdays. I don't know about night and day, but pretty much
Yes, ma'am.
on reparations to many county buildings. And I don't know of any stipend that was offered that way.
You really can't tell unless you pull out the past step increases and compare them to the stipends that people might have got, because there are some people that come close to abusing the step system.
Right.
And they get for their employees much larger
No,
raises than what other people do.
I'm very much aware of that. And my understanding is from the conversation we've just had that these people who have done very good jobs for the county have been receiving step increases along with other employees. So they were getting step increases and also a stipend. Other folks might have been getting step increases without a stipend who are working maybe in a different area, but certainly as intensely.
Exactly.
And there was a way to handle this at the time. I mean, I wasn't involved in 2018. I'd retired and wasn't coming to court. But there would have been a way to handle this that could have been relieving us from making this decision today.
They have been getting their yearly cost of living adjustments, correct?
Yes.
Well, and step increases are beyond that.
Right,
For
right,
performance,
exactly.
yes.
I understand.
They
that.
have received both any of the COLAs that are given and any of the step increases that were given by their supervisor.
Now, were any of these increases funded by outside funds? These
No.
are all just out right out of the county.
No, sir, it's all county.
All right.
All right.
Now,
Any
repeat
further
the-
discussion?
Repeat the motion.
To approve the agenda written. To the agenda.
Commissioner Cheney,
Nay.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Nay.
Judge Garza.
Nay, 4-1. Item number 21.
I make a motion to approve the payment of retroactive pay for Andrew Duncan, investigator for Aransas County Attorney's Office, to compensate him for the law enforcement stipend that he has not yet received for the past 2 years, for a total one-time payment, $15,300.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
This was,
It's my understanding that this should have been paid. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, Commissioner.
No,
If you
no,
want.
no, go right ahead.
Oh, I'll just give a short introduction for Amanda since she's walking the microphone. We hired Andrew in January of 2021 and Amanda was new to office. All of us were new. And we didn't know that there were stipends that were available to licensed peace officers who worked for the county. Recently, we discovered that Andrew does qualify and has since January 2021 for those stipends. And at this time, Amanda's asking that we do the right thing and go back and pay him the funds that he should have been paid for the last 2 years.
Right, and moving forward, I've already fixed his current pay for the remainder of his employment. So that's all I'm asking for. Law enforcement in the county is able to get stipends due to having something called a master peace office license, which is a higher grade of licensing, and also based on having a bachelor's degree from a approved college.
And the reason I made this motion is because that should have been done back at the time.
It
of his
should have.
occurrence. Well,
And-
this is not something that he's done or this is something he has done, completed, and should have, under the current personnel policy, been compensated.
It is, and it should have been caught on a few levels, but since it's my responsibility, I'll say that it was my duty to have that accomplished a couple of years ago. He's the only law enforcement personnel I've ever employed, so I was unaware that he could receive these stipends, and he does a very good job. So I think that he should receive the pay that he's entitled to.
Is this consistent with how we treat the other law enforcement officers?
I believe that they receive the stipends once they are able to. Right, and so it's my fault that it wasn't done at his date of hire. And should have been reflected on all of his applications that the county received, his licensing and his college education. And through HR and myself and all of the other steps that process goes through, it should have been caught before now.
Would the sheriff mind coming up and speaking toward it also, so everybody could hear?
do you have to be a licensed police officer to be one of your investigators?
Under our job description, yes.
Okay.
The only Texas Commission on Law Enforcement moves you through the pay grades based on time of service and accumulation of points for classes you take. And it's a combined deal to get to the different levels. We have officers over the time that you'll get to a level and an officer may not know he's gone to his advanced or his intermediate or master. And we'll find out months later when he's gone and looked at his file with TCO or through just a spot check, and then he has to apply, send it an application with $25 to get the certificate. And then we brought it to personnel, but they would not pay retroactive. They would pay at the point in time when we made them aware and provided the certificate. That's the only deviation from what she's asking for, is that current and past practice did not allow for the retroactive pay to be paid out.
Nothing against you, Sheriff, because I think you do a really good job. But it would seem to me that where the employees are with their education is a dual responsibility. One is for the employee to go and do the stuff, but it's also for the supervisor to become aware and to make decisions for advancement and pay increase and or even demotions. That's all part of it. I think what Ms. Osteen is doing is bringing to us, Mrs. Oster is bringing to us the fact that she found that and is making that adjustment. That's the only, I understand what you're saying, but if you got an officer going to school, chances are we're paying for that school or they're doing it on their own under something that will help them. So there's a responsibility there to make sure that the department has the necessary documentation to say that they had completed that. And secondly, the supervisors, whether it's whatever supervisor it is, to look at the advancement possibilities or money possibilities that go with that improved educational or education and everything. So that's the reason why I think that we ought to allow it.
And I understand that there could be issues of going back and forth, but just to be clear, these are all accomplishments that he had prior to coming to work for our county. So if it was a lack of due diligence on my part to make sure that he received all the stipends, and that lays on my shoulders.
Actually, that was the other comment, that current policy, and I've confirmed that through HR and with Russo, that it did not allow, because we've had it come up with deputies in the past. You get credits as they come in and TCO catches them up and then they've moved your deal and they do not even issue the certificate anymore. You have to apply to get it. And as they've changed, sometimes they've missed it by months. And then when they came to ask for it, current county policy just didn't allow that.
And I would say, when I was there as the HR director, as the sheriff's mentioned, we never paid anything retroactively. I actually thought that was a rule that maybe God created. I'm not sure, but we never paid retroactively. It was from learning of it going forward. And I understand you were new, but I also understand the HR department and the auditors department looks at those personnel action forms. And I'm disappointed that no one picked up on the fact that that gentleman should have had those certifications and should have had the stipends that went with them. But that being said, I would be against paying this retroactively because we have never done so. And I don't think it's a good thing to start.
Just a point of clarification, I know Amanda could speak for herself, but I have to say that the sheriff is aware of all of the stipends that are available to his officers and how those processes work as a person who employs law enforcement officers as part of his duties all the time. Amanda doesn't. And nobody in our office has ever been a law enforcement officer other than Andrew. So we weren't aware. And it is, I believe, collectively all of our faults at the county that this happened.
No, I
really
understand
don't
that.
like to see Andrew be punished for our failure.
But I also understand that's why the HR office and the auditor's office are there to make sure paperwork that is needed is done.
I believe Mr. Dudnick had a
Just to
question.
restate, he had all his qualifications that are listed here when he came in, and we just neglected to pick up that he was allowed to have these stipends.
Correct.
Employment.
We hired him at the wrong level.
We should have, he was qualified to receive the stipends at the time he was hired. Because he has been a law enforcement agent for a very long time. He retired from Houston PD. So he had all of those coming in through the interview process and everything.
Just for the court's information, when we get those personal action forms and stuff, we do not see the application. So if it wasn't on the form, what we audit is to make sure that what's on the form is actually in the system for us. So unless it was on there, we would not have ever known to ask for it.
Right, and the personal action form doesn't have options listed for those sort of stipends. It's a fill in the blank where if you don't know it exists, you would have no prompting for those forms, anyone in any of the offices. Because I'm sure that there are other stipends that I still don't know about, since I don't work in every single department. So if you don't know about them, you don't have anything to put in that blank. It's not a drop-down menu. It's not like boxes that you select. So I think that that could lead to some issues for other people in the future if we use that form forever.
Can I weigh in? My department, we do receive the applications, but we pass those on to other departments. I have to admit, this particular individual is the first time we've ever had a law enforcement person in the county attorney's office, so I will admit, I never even thought about whether or not he would qualify or should have qualified. But I also don't get access or have access to TCOL to see what his certifications are. The only people who have that is the sheriff's office. And at the time that these stipends were passed, there was a memo put out by Gavin Harrison stating that the training coordinator was going to be responsible for checking everybody's information to see what they qualified for through TCOL. That does not come through our office. So I do apologize if we missed something, but I did not realize that he would have even qualified for that.
In the past, the investigators, I know I already asked this, but are they required to be police officers or have certification?
That's a loaded question. So in my opinion, yes. And under our description, yes, you would have to be law enforcement in order to qualify for me to hire you under our job description. The previous investigator under the prior administration was not a law enforcement agent. So that limits some of the things that they can and cannot do. And since we came in and I brought Andrew on, technically we are our own law enforcement agency and he is the head and sole individual running it. So.
But the issue here is not whether or not he's a licensed police officer, but the fact that he was a master licensed police officer.
Correct, because there are different levels
that
that
you
you.
hired in at what he was hired in at, but he should have been hired in at with the extra training.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a matter they just didn't hire him at the right level.
Yeah.
Question?
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 22.
I move to approve budget line item transfers.
Second.
Easy.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. Unanimous. Item number 23.
I move to approve accounts payable, payroll, and payroll liability.
I'll second that.
Before I answer any questions for the board, I do have one check that I needed to walk in, it's not on your list. It's for Texas Association of Counties for our unemployment payment. And it's $4,600.19 for the first quarter of 2023. Be happy to answer any questions. You will notice that there's a lot of things, our tax annual payment on here, which is all of our liabilities and our auto physical damage as well as liability. That's 100% to be paid at the very beginning of the year. We had several software maintenance agreements for June this month. Which includes, if you look at the appraisal district, there's software that we pay our portion of that. Fire department, we also pay their capital. They receive monies through our budget for M&O as well as capital. They give the M&O quarterly, but their capital is paid as one-time fee. We also have, 430 fund, we have several projects, most of those are for our GLO grant. Mont McDonald has several invoices on, excuse me, each one of the streets that we're working on. If there's anything else that y'all have a question on.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dukenyak.
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, unanimous. That's it. At this time, we'll hear reports from commissioners, elected officials, and department heads. No action will be taken.
I would like to say, I really appreciate how we're starting off our meetings with a new county judge, a new commissioner, a new county clerk. One thing I'd like to see I'd like to see two things changed in the agenda. The agenda that the working agenda that the county clerk gives us, I've asked her to include a little bit more room so we can make notes on the agenda items that we may want to take note of another time. And the second thing is, I've asked this several times, but not to the court. I believe that we need to, on each agenda item, if it deals with a particular commissioner's precinct, I think we need to have the commissioner of that precinct name on the agenda item. And I think that helps the public keep up with what's going on in their particular area. I also think it helps the commissioner keep up with what's going on in other areas as well. So I would request that that become part of any agenda item, is that either department head, or if it deals with a particular precinct, that the precinct is noted on as a presenter on the agenda item.
All right, anybody else?
I have just,
I think Jen has been working on the way we've been for the last few years, been doing our agenda where we had to make a motion one way or the other before we did it. And we've been talking, if we set up our own rules, we have the ability to change that as long as we have our own rules. And Jen has been looking into bringing something like that and proposing it to us, where it's confusing that,
It's a good idea.
you know, sometimes you make a motion one way or the other when you do the discussion. If you want to change your mind, you got to vote one down and go to the other one. So we can actually set the rules up where we discuss the agenda item before we make a motion to go one way or the other. Plus, there's some other things that we can do in the procedure.
Or we could give like background information and then motion the discussion. Something.
okay, I have two reports. One is from Zhangfei Lu, who is an assistant professor with UTMSI. This is regarding the sampling we had asked for, and we paid a portion in conjunction with the Navigation District and Coastal Bend Basin estuaries. And ideally, we were going to start getting reports in December, and I just had emailed them and asked, and I received this email back January 5th, that they, well, the transfer of funds from Coastal Bend Basin estuaries was delayed a bit at the beginning, so the sampling was delayed also. But they have gone in, they've collected samples now, and they've sent them to an EPA certified lab by the end of December. I believe that lab is in Colorado. He said that they have some data, but they're still waiting for the rest from the lab, and he hopes to get it within a month. So maybe by the middle of February, we'll have results on that red bed testing. And the other is a letter I received from Mr. Craig Rose, who is the Judson High School STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math careers program instructor. Dear Mrs. Rousseau, I just want to reiterate how much I enjoyed visiting with you during the commute to your vehicle. This was when I was at the fly-in on December 10th and 11th. More importantly, I want to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to the commissioners and Mr. Gear and his staff. I've been a pilot since 1977 and as such recognize excellence when I encounter an operation that embodies it. The opportunity to serve the county and the hospitality that was afforded our students were really special. Also effective as some of our students are now considering careers in the field of aviation. I've attached a doctoral research poster that depicts our STEM program elements for my review. Please convey our thanks to Mr. Gear and his staff for the unique experience. We look forward to serving in 2023 at the Rockport Air Show. Happy New Year, Craig Rose. So I'll put that in the record. Job well done, folks. And I'd like to recognize Jerry Brown, who's here. That was a big part of the air show that we had last month.
Two things I want to bring up. We were talking about the way we do business. You get aggravated acronyms. I get perplexed when we start talking about property and it's listed as Smithwood or something, and we're looking at a map. I don't know where that's at. I mean, I'd like a street to where I can understand what piece of property we're looking at and discussing. The other deal I'd ask the court to start a review or consideration of looking at whatever they call themselves, Tyler or Odyssey, and their performance for the county. I want to bring the point that we did a NIMS conversion last year that was somewhat less than successful. Took a whole year to do it. We had to redo it and resubmit it. And then I lost $60,000 in a budget line for ticket writers because we couldn't get a contract revised with the county attorney's office that would allow us to proceed forward and purchase those because they wouldn't respond to our request to amend the thing and get it something that protected our interests and concerns. And this went on all of last year. We started early with a presentation. These ticket writers were going to allow or would allow us to digitally track the citations. At the end of the year, we punch a report and we get our profiling report for the state. We're going to hand count tickets again because we couldn't resolve the issue in an entire year. Every time Tyler and Odyssey come to town, it costs me money and I usually lose some feature. We are currently going to spend some more money calling a given number because of the city's conversion of them and the impact it's going to have on our network. You know, we weren't the one, I mean, they're taking the city on as a customer and we're going to dole out some more money. I'm less than pleased with their performance and we're continuing to do business with them, but it seems to be they're dictating when they want to respond and what they're going to respond to. Pick and choose what they give for us, and the fact that they wouldn't resolve a contract issue so that we can make that purchase, that money is gone and we'll start over again.
Thank you, Sheriff.
I just have a reminder, this year's county licenses are available again, and Best Friends Grant has sponsored our microchips. I purchased microchips, so if you come in, get your county license with your current rabies, we'll throw in a microchip sponsored by Best Friends.
Oh, good news.
All right. Anybody else? All right.
Going in close session.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I move to consider reconvening into a closed session to consult with and receive advice from legal counsel about insurance matters related to Aransas County's projects and insurance claims from Hurricane Harvey pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, which authorizes closed sessions for a governmental body to consult with its attorney regarding advice on legal matters pertaining to pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer, or on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Board of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
let's vote.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dukenyak.
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. All right. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Hope my legs still work.
Welcome.
All right, it's 11:59 and we are back in open session. Are we live, Colin? Yeah, we are. Okay.
We have a clerk here yet?
She's
She's
here.
here. All right.
Can't see her down there.
All right, I move to authorize the county attorney's office and outside counsel from Lloyd Goslink to initiate a suit in the Aransas County District Court against the insurance adjuster and insurance carriers involved with the county's claim for losses from Hurricane Harvey and or to enter into negotiations for settlement of such claims and to authorize counsel and pursue legislation as may be appropriate related to claims from Hurricane Harvey.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right,
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
aye. It's unanimous. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Who first? Was it?
Commissioner
Casterline.
Casterline.
I
I
couldn't
make a
tell.
motion.
I second it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye. We're adjourned.
You sure?
Oh my gosh.
One for the eighth.